Yes.
Hopefully, no, we're recording. Yes, good. We're recording. Good. All right. So you can hear me, right? Because I don't hear myself. Okay. Let's give charity to. First of all, let's begin the day by giving charity. Giving charity. Charity is always a good thing, and this should be for the immediate arrival of Moshiach, and this should be for the immediate healing of Chaim Menachem Mendel Ben Dvar Zahava. Or Zahava is Tzedakah Tatzil Mimonos, and it will bring the Geula. All right. Yesterday, we learned that the Jewish people are God's first fruits. And the Rebbe really went into this. What is God? What is God? What does it mean God's first fruits? What is God? So the basic lesson of Judaism is that God is not a creation. God is creating everything, and God cares. And God is, He creates the infinite. The upper worlds are infinite. And if you look in the ideas of Kabbalah, which Chassidut brings this a lot, you realize that God creating the infinite is that itself is more than what we think. If you get a little bit of an idea of infinite, so you might think infinite is like the spiritual world. That's infinite. You go to heaven, that's infinity. You get says no, there's all sorts of levels of heaven. And then above that, then there's what's called the world of Atzilut, which that's like pure godliness. And that's just a world. And then there's levels of godliness which are infinitely more real than that. Now, each level of infinite, it's not a mathematical infinity, it's a real infinity. It's real, reality. So, like if somebody, let's say, gives you you're playing Monopoly, there was a game Monopoly, and you have, $100,000. So you've got the money, you're happy, you're playing the game, and someone comes and says, "Hey, I'll give you a real $100,000." Oh, but that's a whole different business. That's even more real, right? So the fake money, it's sort of like money, but it's not really. It's real. It's there. You're playing the game, but real money is infinitely more real. Same thing. It's hard for us to extrapolate this, but this is what Hasidus is trying to teach us: that God is creating us. Our reality, even the reality of heavens, they're all creations, and God is creating this. This makes absolutely no sense, but this is the message of Judaism. And even more, that's just the beginning of the message that God is creating everything. He cares about everything, and He cares about every detail. And God chose the Jews to tell the world exactly this: that God cares about every detail, and that He's creating all these spiritual levels that all the other religions of the world worship. Those are just creations of God. And that's the message of Judaism. You cannot don't connect yourself to any creation whatsoever, any level, and say that that's God. God is ultimate reality. So everything you do in the world has to always be in mind. God is creating this thing. God is creating me. Why is He creating this? Why is He creating me? What should I do? When a person does that, it'll give him more of a reason to wake up in the morning, to be alive. You know that you're being created for a reason. And a lot of times it's not understandable. A lot of times it's very painful. And then a lot of times it's difficult. That's the story of the Jews. The Jews were born in Egypt. But nevertheless, it says the Jews are God's first fruits. What does it mean, God's first fruits? The whole plan of this world and all of the amazing Kabbalistic ideas and physics and ideas in physics and in the human anatomy and the human psychiatry, all these amazingly complicated things, they're being created by God all the time. And God purposely put this whole business into our hands. And that's the message of the Jews to the world. That's what it means. We are Bikurim. We are the first fruits of God. Let's see where we got up to now. Here we got up to here. I think up to here. Oh. Okay, so this is the connection. This is the connection to the month of Elul. Oh, no. One minute. Where do we get up to? I think we got up to here. Yes. Okay. So, and that's okay. I think we got up to here. Yeah, the month of El. All right, we've got a lot to do, so let's see what we can do. Let's attach this with everything we just said about the Jews are the first fruits, and the whole world is in our hands, and that we are the special ones. We have to teach the world, and we have to, and we have the power to do it. We have the power to do it. So this is all connected to the month of Elul. The month of Elul, that's this month. It's the last month of the year. And in this month, we make an inventory of everything that happened in the past year in order to try to fix it up, right? Not to make us feel bad. I mean, listen, if you make an if you make an accounting of the previous year and you realize there are things that you did wrong, it should definitely make you feel bad for 2 seconds, 5 seconds, maybe even a minute. A minute is a long time. When you take it to your heart and you realize, wow, I made a mistake. So at least you realize you made a mistake. That's good. You should feel bad about making a mistake. But immediately you should understand the reason that I made a mistake is only to learn from it. It's only to fix it up. It's only to become a better person. The reason I made mistakes, the reason I did sins, the reason I did transgressions in the past, the reason I was lazy or I lost my temper or I got whatever, I was dishonest. The only reason that I did those things is because of who I am, what I think about God, what I think about myself, what I think why the world is here, why I'm here. I had a misconception of everything. I didn't understand what was going on. I thought right. It comes back and says, I just killed the enemy. All those people in green coats. Says, well, those were our guys. Oh, I thought the ones in the green coats were the bad guys. And the ones in the orange coats, it's the same thing in this world. I thought that, stealing was a good thing. I thought that was my friend. I didn't know. So the whole reason we do sins and transgressions and bad things is because of mistaken identity, mistaken values. We can't, how do you say, stand against our own urges. We think that our negative and destructive urges are our friends. Here we see this in the world now. There's all these Jews on college campuses that they're for the Hamas. I thought these guys were our friends. I thought they were nice, right? They want to kill you. It's just a confusion of ideas. So therefore comes along the month of Elul, and you start to realize, wow, I'm making a big mistake. I'm I'm serving the wrong gods over here. It says then when you do that by means, and that's what's called tshuva, you return to your true identity. I am a creation of God. I am a Jew. Right? A non-Jew says I am a creation of God. God loves me. A Jew says I am a Jew. I have a special obligation to the whole entire world to tell them the seven Noahide commandments, like it says simply, like it says that when you take the you go to battle and you get you take a woman, a beautiful woman, you take her prisoner. So it says that you can have relations with her one time in the time of the army, and then afterwards you can't have any more relations with her. You have to take her home. And the reason you can have the first time is because you see that she's beautiful, and a soldier in the middle of battle is all of a sudden arouses the Or HaChaim explains it beautifully. That it's really the sparks of holiness that he, because it doesn't make any sense. How can he see this? They all of a sudden have lust for some non-Jewish woman. He's only tzaddikim could go into war. Only people that had no sins could go out. Anyone who had any sins had to go back home. Only people, and they went out with the tablets. The broken tablets went out with them. How could they do a sin? So he says because he saw in this woman something to fix up. He says, how do you fix her up? You take her home and she cries for her mother 1 month. What's that 1 month? The month of Elul. That's us. The the woman that's taken prisoner, that's us. And we have to cry for our mother. In other words, Hashem, 1 month. What's the 1 month? The month of Elul. And by means of this, when you you have to make a proper accounting of yourself and what you've done. and who you are. The al yedei by means of this, you come to shleimus geula. You can come to what's called the geula. So you want to know what to do in order to bring Mashiach. Make a proper accounting of yourself. After you do, go and ask your rabbi or your friend or Igros Kodesh, right? The letters of the Rebbe, if you're right or not. The Hainu ke'inyan shenemar, like it says, Bayomahu tikra ishi. Then on that day, we will be called. I will be called. Let's see. I will be called her husband. I'm sorry. God will be called my husband. Like the rabbi say, Lamota Mashiach in the days of the Mashiach. Then there's going to be the actual consummation of the marriage that started on Mount Sinai. Like it says, Bo'alayach Hosayach, like it says, your husband, he creates you. The Gam Chodesh Hachan, it's also a the month of Elul, it's a month of preparation. There's Chalas Avod at the beginning service in the coming months. And according to this, now we can say that the month of Elul is stressed these two joinings of these two things we said before, work and reward. Remember, that's how we started? Last week we learned. Last week was called going out to work, and last week in Mincha of Shabbat, we read Kitavo, that's the reward when you come to the land of Israel. So last week we began the Shabbat by reading Kitetse, when you go out to war. And on Mincha, we ended the Shabbat up with the reward. So it ended up when you come to the land of Israel, which only Mashiach is going to do. When that's done, we see that there's a unification of two things: the reward, the work, and the reward for the work together. In the beginning of service in the next year, it comes after the continuation of the service of this year. And that's the whole idea in the month of Elul. So this year we did the work. On Rosh Hashanah, coming next year, then we're going to get the reward. And that's hinted at the words Ani Ladodi, that's our work. Vadodi Li, and what God gives to us. I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. That's what it means. Shetachila, that the beginning of the service is in a way of eteruta dilatata, an arousal from below. I am to my beloved. I go to, and also this is hinting at that God is beloved. God is really good. He really loves us. And afterwards, my beloved is to me. Mudyesh Tachlis, this hints at the completion of all of our service of all these thousands of years we've been serving God. Kitavo ala oretz, the future redemption. But right now, what are we doing? We're uniting them both, the reward and the work. The work itself becomes the reward. How can this be? Remember the Rebbe explained last week. He said there's two things. Either we're receiving the reward, but it's like in the bank, we can't get it. It's like locked up, but it's ours. One meaning. And the other meaning is that in any second now, Mashiach is supposed to come. It has to come, right? Or even more, the Mashiach is already here. We just have to open up our eyes. That's the reward. And we have to look at the world not in a selfish way. If people don't agree with us, we can't get angry at them. If the world doesn't do exactly what we want, we can't get frustrated or depressed or because it's God's world, it's not ours. We have to leave it open for Hashem. That's the work. And immediately with that work, opening yourself to Hashem, as there's a reward, suddenly you see that everything is okay. I mean, I'm saying these words, but meanwhile, the world is in pretty bad shape. It's really in very bad shape. Things our soldiers are dying. The government just doesn't care about them. It's just shocking what's going on. And with 1/4 of Israel, something like that, they're for Hamas. They're demonstrating every night that we have to give the land back and that we are conquering nation. It's just, I mean, I would like to open up my eyes and see that everything is good, and I imagine that it is, but I'm hoping that maybe one of you will do it because, the Rebbe is saying to do it, and I'm in the middle telling you that this is what the Rebbe is saying. So hopefully you'll get it because I can't really say that I get it. I mean, I'm trying to open up my eyes and I'm trying to see, but there's a lot of pain and suffering in the world that, I don't get it. I don't get it. Okay. But somehow or other, Mashiach is going to explain it. And how he's going to explain a thing like this is the most incomprehensible thing in the world. Most incomprehensible. But he's going to do it. It's going to be something that's going to be so amazingly good. We're going to say, oh, now I get the Holocaust. Wow, am I glad that happened? I don't get it. Okay, anyway, let's go. If so, that's the whole service of, so listen, Judaism is based on faith, right? Faith. Abraham started Judaism, and God told him things to do, and he promised them it would be good, and he did exactly what God said, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good. God said, go to the land of Israel, I'm going to make you great. And he went to the land of Israel, didn't have what to eat. And he had no choice. He had to go to Egypt, and they stole his wife when he was in Egypt. They kidnapped him. Finally, God, said, take your son and kill him. The whole thing is faith. And Abraham did it with happiness, it says. It said that was the whole main thing about Abraham, happy. So, Abraham was already 4,000 years from the redemption, right? He was 400 years before giving of the Torah, 450, 450. And he had faith any second it's going to be good, it's going to come. So much more so we should do it. And so what the Rebbe is saying is true. And what the Rebbe is saying, but we have to have faith. That's what Judaism is. To not pay too much attention to the world. We're here to fix up the world, not the world is here to destroy us. This is the whole purpose of the service of God. Ani ledodi, I go to my beloved, that's the Jewish people, and dodi li at the same time is connected to me. But often shel nesuim, it's a way of getting married. But you basar, this is when they get married, they're like one flesh. The Jewish people and God are totally one. Like it's stressed in the end and the completion of the 40 days that are hinted at, the 4 yuds, ani ledodi, bedodi li, ani ledodi, 4 yuds, ani yud, that's 40. That's the 40 days that Moses was on Mount Sinai, that began on Rosh Hashanah, that began on that's the last 40 days, I'm sorry, that Moses was on Mount Sinai, when it started on the beginning of Elul, and it ended on Yom Kippur when we got the second tablets. And that's the four yuds until it came to Yom Kippur. That's the day of God's marriage with the Jewish people. That's the day when the Holy of Holies was revealed to all the Jews. The high priest went into the Holy of Holies. That's when every Jew goes into the Holy of Holies. That's when they got the last tablets and the completion of the marriage of the Jews with God in the days of the Mashiach. That's the whole idea of getting married. Me getting married, that's nasai. Nasai means to be elevated. Nasias Rosh, elevating the head. Sheshlemus Mashiach, that the Mashiach will be a person, Yorom v'nisa, the Gavamod. It says in Isaiah that he'll be elevated and high and exalted very much. By means of the Mashiach, as Nasit Shlemot and Nasiyot Rosh, the Kol Echad V'Echad Mibnei Yisrael, all the Jewish people will change. There'll be an actual change. Ubafran, especially by means of the spark of the Mashiach, which was in it, the level of Yechida. Mashiach says Yechidu Shel Olam. It will be with the one, the how do you say, the singular God of the world. Yechidu Shel Olam. Now, how this is going to be that Mashiach is going to change the intellect of everyone, and we can see certain examples, but nevertheless, it's going to happen. This is especially an emphasis in the month of Elul in this year, Tavshin Nun Aleph. We've talked about this before. That's Tavshin Nun Aleph is like a commandment. Tavshin Nun Aleph. Okay, let us skip over this because this is Tavshin Nun Aleph. It's speaking about the first letters of the Rebbe's, the year that the Rebbe was speaking in. Tavshin Nun Aleph means it should be, is naseh, should be elevated. And our year is Tavshin Pei Hey. That's what it's going to be. Pei Hey. So we can say it should be a year Plaot habore, miracles of God, whatever. In any case, that year, Tafshin Nun Aleph, the Rebbe said, everything has been finished. We've already done all the work, and now we have to receive the reward of Mashiach coming. Now, we've talked about this many times before. This, of course, can be looked at in two ways. One way is, okay, the Rebbe said something and the Rebbe made a mistake. That's it. But if you remember 2 weeks ago, the Rebbe said that he's a prophet. And he said that the previous Rebbe was a prophet and he inherited from a prophet. Now, a prophet is never wrong. When a prophet says a good thing, he's never wrong. So if the Rebbe said the Mashiach has to come in this year, so he's not wrong. He was right. He was right. We didn't see the major changes. I mean, there were major changes, but they all seemingly just evaporated. There weren't even just. So on one hand, we can say, that's it. It was wrong, which there are people that say that. And then on the other hand, we can say, listen, if the Rebbe said it and Mashiach was supposed to come then, for sure he's going to come now. There's no doubt about it, right? There's absolutely no doubt about it. The Rebbe's not lying. It's not like you call up, where's my taxi? Oh, we sent it out an hour ago. They didn't send it out. They didn't send nothing. They were just very busy and they didn't have taxis. So he lied to you, right? But the Rebbe is not that way. The Rebbe is not that. The Rebbe is a prophet, an actual prophet. And we saw the prophecies of the Rebbe in the 6-Day War and in the Yom Kippur War even, and in the Gulf War. Now, amazing with the fall of the Iron Curtain, right? Incredible things. And nobody agreed with them. And the Rebbe said exactly. So, and now we know from the Maimonides that Mashiach has to come. Mashiach has to come, and he's supposed to be coming any second. And according to Judaism, we have to wait for him every instant that he should come. The commandment is not to wait. The commandment is he's supposed to be here. That's the commandment. The Mashiach is supposed to be here, and we're supposed to be ready to receive him every second. So the Rebbe said something special happened in Tafshin Nun Aleph that made it that it really did happen. And we just have to see that. Okay, so it says, that's the whole reward. The Chodesh Elul, today is Yud Dalet Elul. When the Rebbe was speaking, it was Yud Dalet Elul. Today is Yud Zayin Elul. The 14th day of Elul, this is the day before the 15th of Elul. And the 15th day of Elul, that was when the moon was full. And the moon, of course, one second. Is this right? Yes, okay, good. And this hints at, and the Jewish people, it's the Jewish people that are compared to the moon, and they count according to the moon, and they're going to be renewed like the moon. And especially the whole full moon, that's the idea that the moon receives from the sun. And this is the whole idea of the unification of the sun and the moon. So the full month, this is showing that there's a unification of the sun and the moon. The full power of the moon is revealed. And what's the full power of the moon? What it receives from the sun. For instance, marriage, that's like the idea of marriage, of God and the Jewish people. And Yud Dalet Elul from Yud Dalet, the 14th day of Elul, is 30 days before the holiday. It's 30 days before Sukkot, which is on the 14th day of Elul. I'm sorry, 14th day of Tishrei. So it says there's a law that 30 days before the holiday, you have to start learning the laws of the holiday. So now we have to begin the preparation for Sukkot. What is Sukkot? Sukkot is the holiday of our joy. Shleimut Chazaka of Simcha, the complete joy. And the holiday of Sukkot, it's written 3 times. V'samachta, be happy. This is revealing what was begun to be revealed on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, we said, was the day of the marriage of God with the Jews. The day when the high priest went into the Holy of Holies. High priest represented the Jewish people. The Holy of Holies, that represents God, is the unification of them was on Yom Kippur. That's when we received the second tablets, and that was 40 days after the beginning of Elul. And the revelation of all this joy and all this work that we did comes out on the holiday of Sukkot. The holiday of Sukkot, that's called the time of our joy. Sham Naseh, there is made Shlemut Lamata I'm sorry, is made the happiness a chazaka 3 times of happiness. It says be happy 3 times on Sukkot. 3 times it says being happy. This is the revelation of Yom Kippur. Oh, this is the unification of God and the Jewish people. And it's more exactly, it says Zman Simchatenu, the time of our happiness. What does it mean, our happiness? Our happiness means of all the Jews, right? But there's another way of looking at it. Our happiness means the happiness of the Jews and of God. God is also happy. Shemechabrim, that we join these two joys together. The joy from above to below, God is happy. And the joy, like it says, Yismach Hashem b'ma'asav, that God is happy in his handiwork. With the joy of the Jewish people from below to above, the Jewish people are happy in their Creator. And in this is stressed the joining together of these 2 types of service. Hayom la'asotam, today to do them. When God created the world, he put man in the world, what? To fix up the world. So we're here to fix up the world. It's not an endless task. There's a reward. What's the reward? It says tomorrow, when Moshiach comes, we'll receive all the reward from all the work. I think about this a lot. I'll tell you the truth. There's millions and millions of Jews suffered and died alone. Nobody knows about them. They're not in the newspapers. It wasn't advertised. No one knows of their courage and of their integrity, of their faith and of their love, their incredibly difficult work and the tortures that they went through, and that the steadfast connection they had with God despite all, and nobody knows about it. No one knows. And nobody knows where they're buried. And a lot of them, they're not even buried. They're burned or whatever. What is it? The wolves ate them up or something in the middle of Siberia. This is this is being in this world. Why did God do it? He wants us to work. He wants us to fix up the world. That God, when we do what we're supposed to do, so God is happy in the creation. This happiness, it says, according to Kabbalah, it comes from a level which is called Panimiut Atik, the inner crown of God, the inner pleasure of God himself. Okay, let me just skip this one because he's talking about the date. The date back then was. All right, so it's on the 13th day when the Rebbe was speaking. It was the 13th day of Elul, and the 13th day of Elul. This is the day that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe got married. Benisui, that's when he got married. So the previous Rebbe got married, and as a result of that, his marriage was that one of his daughters became the Rebbe's wife, and that connected the Rebbe to the previous Rebbe. Because of that, the Rebbe became the leader of our generation. 2 days later, after the previous Rebbe got married, was the date that Tomchei Tamimim was founded. It was founded. But Talmidei yeshivas, the pupils in the yeshiva, they're called Tamimim. Why? Because they learn the Torah of God, both Nigla and Chasidut. Below, and not only that, Ela Shalimud Panim is a Torah. The learning of the inside of the Torah is understandable. They can learn ideas of Kabbalah and make it practical for loving God and serving God. And learning ideas in the Torah, that our intellect can be unified with the inner ideas of the Torah. This is an amazing unity that there's nothing like it at all. One of the big accomplishments of Chassidut is that a simple person in the streets can understand ideas of the deepest aspects of the unity of God and these different sphirot of God, how they're just aspects of God. The main thing is to understand how close God is to us. That's what Chassidut can do. It puts it in our inside. And that began on the 15th day of Elul when the yeshivas of Chabad were founded. That was in 1890, something, 96. Huh? This is something like a preparation for the days of the Mashiach. That all the Jewish people, it says then, will be tremendously wise and they will know secret things. They will understand the knowledge of God. And that's why it said that when the Rebbe, the fifth Rebbe of Chabad, when he made these yeshivas of Tomchei Tamimim, that he called his pupils Tamim, complete, but he also said that anyone who learns in the yeshiva is a soldier in the house of King David. Shemenatzchim et mamad b'matzav of chorfu ichvas mishichecha. And says that chorfu ichvas mishichecha. Says we're living in a generation. It's in the end of here. Let's see. Okay. Chorfu. This is the Rapach Netzutzos of Tohu. Wow, I never saw this before. Okay, this is the spirit of the Mashiach, Marachefes. It says that the spirit of the Mashiach. It says right on the first day that he's hovering over the world. That is connected to what's called the 288 sparks of holiness that fell into the world with the breaking of the vessels. In other words, all the not good things in the world that we can fix up. That's in the way of Chirfu, right? It's in the Psalm, what is it? I'm sorry that I forgot. Psalm 90, right? The end of Psalm 90. Let me have a look. I'm sorry that I forgot this. This is not proper. Yes, that's right. Psalm, right before Psalm 90. Psalm 89. Rebbe Rashab said that there's a generation of Jews that they're going to go against God. And then there's going to be a generation of Jews that their opposition is not going to be so much to God. It's going to be against the Mashiach. And I'm making the yeshiva of Tomchei Tamimim in order to negate that, to stop that. That there won't be anyone that'll be opposing to God. That's the idea of Tamim. That's why they learn that. That's what they call the soldiers of Beit David. And so that's us. If we're learning, you're learning in these classes. So you're part of those who are the soldiers of King of Beit David, and that we have to strengthen in ourselves. And this, when he talks about making war, it doesn't mean getting mad and looking at people that don't agree with us as though they're our enemy. The enemy is not the people. The enemy is the ignorance in the world. And we shouldn't react to that ignorance in a negative way. We have to react in a positive way. What can we do to educate the world? Maybe the only way we can do it is by being a good example. I mean, that for sure you have to do. But sometimes you have to rely on that. I mean, you might think it's not enough. Sometimes it is. We have to be victorious on this thing of those who say Mashiach is not going to come. There's no such thing. His galus of bias Mashiach ben David in a way of Baruch Hashem L'olam. Amen. I mean, basically, listen, when it comes down to it, that was the big fault of Zionism, even religious Zionism, is that we can do it on our own. We don't need Mashiach. Mashiach will come, of course it'll come, but that's a very big mistake. We can bring all the Jews to Israel without Mashiach. That is false. That's called opposing Mashiach. That's called opposing Mashiach. Like I said before, it doesn't mean these people are our enemies. It means that the reason people say that is because we're not being a good example. We're not teaching them. We don't believe it ourselves. that Mashiach is going to bring all the Jews back to Israel, and only Mashiach will do it. And Mashiach, why will he do it? Because he'll wake up the soul of every Jew. And the soul of every Jew wants to do all the commandments. And Mashiach will build a temple in Israel. The temple will come from heaven. And you can't do all the commandments without the temple. And because all the Jews will want to do the commandments, then that'll draw them to the land of Israel. That's what Mashiach will do. He'll awaken the soul of every Jew, not the bodies of every Jew. He'll awaken the souls of every Jew first, and then the bodies will follow. Like it says in the end, Pei Tes says that's like the Psalm 89, I just told you. And we can also comment that our time that we're in now, that's spoken about in this Psalm 89, where people oppose God and they oppose Mashiach, says the Rebbe, it's already finished. There is no more opposition. It's already finished. Kavar, after all of our deeds in the time of these 40 years. What 40 years? The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe passed away in 1950. And the Rebbe is giving the speech in 1991. So the 40 years has already passed. We've already finished. Shenitosef b'hafatzas mayanos chutza, in a way of Natan Hashem lachem, God has given you a heart to know and eyes to see and ears to hear. And now we are standing on going in to Psalm number 90. That was also the age of the Rebbe. The Rebbe was also 90 when he said this. That Siyumo Chosmo, that's finishing He Noam Hashem Elokeinu, that should the pleasure of God should be on us, and what we do with our hands, in other words, our work, our efforts should be permanent. Shetishra Shechina, that the Shechina should rest on our hands, that this is the completion, the complete reward of all of our service that we have done. So the Rebbe says, so what should we do? Says the Rebbe, we should advertise that any second Mashiach is going to be revealed. All we have to do is add more good. Add more good. And our generation, who is the Mashiach? That's the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. Tzchok, that's why his name is Yitzchak, to be happy. That's a tzchok and simcha, that all the bad things will be transformed into good. Should we do this? I think, we got time. I guess we started late. That's what it means, ki tavo el haaretz. That we're talking about now, the time for coming Mashiach has already arrived. But we have to tell people to appreciate it. How, first of all, learning about Mashiach and Geula and the Holy Temple. And the main thing is it has to be in a calm way, in a way of happiness, in a way of pleasantness, in a way of arivos vivado, making forbringings of joy and happiness in all places, just like a wedding. This is something like a preparation for doing what says, Az Yamales Chokpino. In the Psalms, it says, then our mouths will be filled with joy. It's one of the Shir Amalos, right? Right near the end. Psalm 126. 126. Then our mouths will be filled. What does it mean then? That our generation, that the leader of it is the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, that his second name is Yitzchak, being happy, tzchok, of a tzchok and happiness. He is the 8th leader of Chabad, the 8th leader from the Baal Shem Tov. The Az, Gematria Shmona, to the Baal Shem Tov. Then this is made Yamale Tzchok Pino in Lashon Hova. Now we have to advertise everywhere that our special shlichos of Tomchei Tamimim, that's drawn down in all the corners of the world, is that we have to illuminate, be lights, do good. We have to add on to the fact that every single Jew has to be a house of Torah and prayer and giving charity. It has to be every house something like the yeshiva of Tomchei Tamimim, that they learn Torah Chasidut and they're sent out to do good deeds and to spread Judaism and to spread everywhere, advertise everywhere, that you have to provide for people that are poor everything they need for the holiday. And a lot of times there's Jews that are proud and they won't want to admit it. You have to find out all sorts of clever ways to find who needs what for the holidays and to give it to them. Kaday, in order that these people will be able to prepare for the time of happiness in a joyous way. Like it says, eat fat things and drink sweet things and send gifts one to the other. May it be God's will that by means of just talking about these things and making good resolutions in all, to learn more Hasidut, to do more good deeds, to be ready every second to be a good example and to others that Mashiach is coming and the world is going to be a wonderful place, that we immediately will merit to receive, that God will give each and every Jew all that he needs, all of their necessities. And it says in the days of the Mashiach that everybody's going to be rich physically, actually. Why? Because if you're rich, it takes away your monetary problems. You're free to think about God. You're free to give more charity. Who are you going to give charity? Everyone is already rich. I know there's a story about there were Hasidim that they knew that it was such a big commandment to give charity. And by the way, the biggest type of charity is to give a loan, to loan money. To loan money. If you give someone $10, so the person is very happy, he receives the money. You give the person a loan, $10. This is not charity to you. This is a loan. You have to pay me back whenever you want. Whenever you want. If you don't pay me back, that's okay. But it's a loan. What does that mean? It means that you're not saying the person you're a nothing and I'm helping to support you. You're giving them to the person and saying, listen, you're something, you're important. Of course, it depends on the situation. You know, somebody that you know is not going to be able to pay you back, and it's just going to make them feel bad. But in general, it awakens up a person a certain responsibility that you think that he's a person just like you. Just like you. It's not that I'm rich and you're poor. It's just that you temporarily, you don't have money. You're going to have money. You'll pay me back. So there used to be Hasidim that they used to loan each other money. They used to loan each other money. A quarter. Here's a loan for a quarter. And the other guy would loan him a quarter. Now I owe you and you owe me, right? And then the next day they would return it to each other because it was such a big thing to give charity, to give a loan and to repay a loan. So they would do this every single day in order just to get themselves into the, how do you say, spirit. Not only that, that's all they had was a quarter. They didn't have any more. That's all they had was a quarter. Eventually God will give from his full hand. How much more so? And the main thing is, what's God going to give us? Not just the necessities of the holiday and our day-to-day needs, but the geula, the true redemption by means of the Mashiach, that we'll be rich and our souls will be rich. In the language of the Torah, it says, we read in Minchat, Ki tavo ala oretz, ve'yirishtav yeshavtabo. We'll come to the land of what we read this week. You come to the land of Israel and you will inherit it immediately. And it says you will take the first fruits and you will go to the place where God chose to put his name there. And who are the first fruits? Says the Jewish people. What's the place? Is the Holy Temple. Until it finally ends up, it says, Hashkifa mima'on kadshecha. God, look down from your high place, from the heavens, and bless your Jewish people. Beginning from the blessing, the main blessing is Geula Amitit Tashlema, the total redemption by means of the Mashiach, immediately. So I hope the Mashiach will come faster than when I read this thing, even though I read it a bit quick. But the point is a very positive one. And the point is that we have to provide the needs of everyone spiritually and physically, and realize that we have riches inside of us that we have to give to others. And the riches are the soul that Mashiach is waking up, the Jewish soul inside of each and every one of us. Immediately, it's going to happen. Now let us do the Yom Yom. Oh, here we go.